from the book of Zechariah 3, from verse 1 to 10. Zechariah from chapter 3, and it is the entire chapter. I'm going to read. Then he showed me Joshua, the high priest, standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan at his right hand, his right side, to accuse him. The Lord said to Satan, "The Lord rebuke you, Satan. The Lord who has chosen Jerusalem rebuke you. Is not this man a burning stick snatched from the fire?" Now Joshua was dressed in filthy clothes as he stood before the angel. The angel said to those who were standing before him, "Take off his filthy clothes." Then he said to Joshua, "See, I have taken away your sin, and I will put a rich garment on you." Then I said, "Put a clean turban on his head." So they put a clean turban on his hand and clothed him while the angel of the Lord stood by. The angel of the Lord gave this charge to Joshua. "This is what the Lord Almighty says. If you will walk in my ways and keep my requirements, then you will govern my house and have charge over all, you have charge of my courts, and I will give you a place among these standing here. Listen, O high priest Joshua, and your associates seated before you, who are men symbolic of things to come. I am going to bring my servant, the branch. See the stone I have set in front of Joshua. There are 7 eyes on that one stone, and I will engrave an inscription on it, says the Lord Almighty, and I will remove the sin of this land in a single day. In that day, each of you will invite his neighbor to sit under his vine and fig tree, declares the Lord." Bwana asifiwe. Now, these are the words that were written by Zechariah, and this is the time when the Israelites and Olende gotten back to their land, Israel, after 70 years in captivity. We know that during the reign of King Jehoiakim, that is when the Israelites were taken to the land of captive in Babylonians. And they had to stay there for 70 years. And when 70 years were over, God now came to remember them, and he bring them back to Jerusalem. And from what we are getting here now, they are back. God appointed Zerubbabel to be his governor and Joshua to be his high priest. And these two people, they were to restore the city of Jerusalem and also the temple for the people who had come from captivity. In other words, they had a special assignment given to them by God. Now, when they are about to start their work, when they are almost about to start to execute the mandate that God had given them, there is a very strange happening. A very strange happening indeed. That is, Zechariah sees a vision. And this vision, he sees Joshua standing before the Lord, and the angel and the Satan standing at his right side to accuse him. Now, this vision tries to reveal what happens in the spiritual realm that even as ourselves we do not understand what happens anytime we are standing before our Maker. Like here now we are seated. There are things happening, but we cannot see them. Those of us who have phones, those of us who have TVs, there are a lot of waves in the air. And if you have a gadget to connect to that wave, you just start getting live stream of whatever is happening in the TV. Waves are just within us. And now we are given a scenario that is happening to people, a person that God is about to send to carry out his mission. I've said, this is what happens in the spiritual realm, that sometimes we are not even aware. We do not have even an iota of whatever is happening. Because we have naked eyes. Our eyes are very naked to some issues. Spiritual matters cannot be seen by our physical eyes. But God, being a spirit, and God being God, he is omniscient, he is omnipresent. There is nothing. God is everywhere. He can see all things. Joshua is right in the presence of God, and Satan is on his right hand, right side, ready to accuse him. And I want to say, if we are to be successful, if we have to succeed in the tasks that God has given to us, always, we need to go to God, for our protection is where it is assured. Bwana asifiwe. And my message is, the title of my message, Remain in God for Protection. Remain in God for protection. Now, if we are to succeed in what God has given us, if we are to succeed in what God has mandated us to do, so that we can be able to avoid all form of satanic attack, there are three things that I'm going to handle. And if time would not allow, I hope that I will be able to get another chance so that we can complete. Number one, let God rebuke the accuser on your behalf. Let God rebuke the accuser on your behalf. Number two, let God remove your filthy garments. Let God remove your filthy garments. And number three, let God redirect your life. Let God redirect your life. I'll start with let God rebuke the accuser on your behalf. We have seen that in the verse that we have read from verse 1 to verse 3. We have been told the high priest Joshua was standing before the Lord, and Satan standing at his right side to accuse him. The Lord said to Satan, "The Lord rebuke you, Satan. The Lord who has chosen Jerusalem rebuke you. Is not this man a burning stick snatched from the fire?" Now, this interesting scenario Joshua is a bishop. Joshua is a high priest. Joshua is an archbishop. I mean, the highest authority he is. And when he is standing before the Lord, Satan is there to accuse him. I want to say, Satan is not a respecter of any person. Joshua, with all the titles that he held, Satan was standing on his right side, not on the left, on the right side. And maybe he had a genuine case, and he had it. Because we are told that Joshua was dressed in filthy garments. And Satan was there. As the Bible tells us in the book of Revelation, I think it's 12 and verse 10, he is called the accuser of brethren. Bwana asifiwe. Hilo ndilo jina la shetani. He is the accuser of brethren. And he is standing there in the presence of God. And Joshua is there. And he is right on his right side to accuse him. Remember, Joshua is standing in the presence of God to receive instructions. He is to receive instruction from the Lord. But the devil is there, Satan is there, and he has a genuine case that he had to present. But we are told, as I've said, devil, we know him. Satan is the accuser of who? Brethren. That is what he does. Going to the book of Job, I'm just going to quote. Andika utasoma we mwenyewe. Job 1:6 and verse 12. We know that. When the sons of men were presenting themselves, sons of God were presenting themselves, the devil was among them. Satan was there to present himself. He presented himself. Even here, the devil is there to present himself, and not only to present himself, he has a genuine case. And he wants this case to be handled. But see what God does. God rises to the defense of Joshua and rebuke Satan. God does not keep silent. He does not remain dumb, but he raises his voice. He raises his voice and defends his servant. God rises to the defense of Joshua and rebukes the Satan. And God tells Satan, is not this man a burning stick snatched from the fire? Now, these people have already finished their 70 years in captivity. They are going back. God has given them some mandates of what they were to execute. And then, devil is there. Satan is there. God tells him, is not this man a burning stick snatched from the fire? In other words, he is telling the devil, these people, this man has already left captivity. He has been in captivity for all those years. And then you have the guts to accuse him? It can't happen. God is stood with Joshua. And I want to say, and I want to ask it as a question. Supposing it is your kid, ni mtoto wako ambaye umezaa. And then as you are heading home, you meet people doing mob justice to your kid. Maybe he has stolen, he has done something that is not right. What would you do? Would you just stand there and say, do whatever you want to do because he has committed crime? You can't do that as a parent. Bwana asifiwe. Hauwezi ukafanya hivyo. First of all, you look for a way of rescuing your kid. You say, this is my son. This is my daughter. He is mine. And after he has come on your side, of course he has committed crime. Hiyo ni ya baadaye. Bwana asifiwe. But first, there is rescuing. That is what God is doing. God is standing in for Joshua. And he has said, no, you can't accuse him. He is just from captivity, 70 years. And now he is here. And before they start executing their mandate, Satan, you are here to accuse? No. Our God can rebuke the accuser. Just as you can do to your son, to your daughter, when he or she is in the wrong. Unaweza ukamuondoa kwa hatari ya watu wengi. The mob justice. And this is what God does. I want us to reflect on a verse that is in the book of Isaiah 49 and verse 24, 25. Kama inaweza yuko kwa screen. Isaiah 49, 24 and 25. Can a plunder be taken from warrior, or a captive be rescued from the fires? That is King James. What does NIV say? NIV. But this is what the Lord says. Yes, the captives will be taken from the warrior, and the plunder retrieved from the fires. I will contend with those who contend with you. The children I will save. Bwana asifiwe. Let me tell you something that ever happened to me. When I was in Form 2, hatukuwa wazuri. I was not good. And we were almost ended for midterm. Nilikuwa nimeiba vioo. Window panes. Not like these ones. Louvers. Si mnajua louvers? Ile unafungua kamoja zinafunguka zote. And as such was conducted. As such was conducted a day before we went for midterm. Tukaambiwa all our boxes tuzitoe kwa nini kwa dom, and they were paraded somewhere outside. And teachers were told to come and check all those boxes. I remember my box was being checked by my biology teacher, a retired teacher by now. Akaingia kwa box yangu, alikuwa na kijiti. Akachukua nguo, inawekwa hapo na kijiti. Nguo ingine na kijiti. Ingine na kijiti. Hiyo kiboko yake. And then akafikia mahali kulikuwa na a newspaper. Newspaper ilikuwa imefunika hizo vioo. Akainua hiyo newspaper na akaona vioo. Akaona vioo. Akaigonga hivi na kijiti. Akaniangalia. Akaniangalia. Let me tell you what was going in my mind at that time. Nilikuwa nimeamua Kileani sisomei tena. Nikaamua tukitoka Menditam, shule yenye naenda Ngekurune. And I told myself, this has to happen. Now that I've been caught red-handed, sina bahati. Sina bahati. Baada ya kuigonga mara ya 4, akaniambia rudisha nguo. Nikaambiwa rudisha nguo. Let me tell you, that thing sank in me. I was a thief. I was a thief. There was all the evidence. I was. But this teacher, mimi sikuwa namjua, but he decided to save me. And let me tell you, from that day, there is something that went through my mind. And I said, I want to be like that teacher. He was my biology teacher. I became a biology and agriculture teacher. Later, tukakutana na yeye. In one of the seminars, it was during the SMASE, Science and Mathematics, what. Tukakutana na yeye. Mwalimu huenda ikawa unamjua, alikuwa anaitwa Mr. Nkonge. Mr. Nkonge, Job. His wife anafunza St. Lawrence. Hapo ndipo wako. And I asked him, Mwalimu, do you remember this episode when we were in Form 2? Do you remember this episode? That Mwalimu, you decided to save me when, frankly speaking, evidence was there to prove that I was a thief. You decided to save me. And then he told me, Mwalimu, you think I don't know? You think it just happened? I knew you very well. I knew your father very well. And I only realized that you are going to mess up with your life. I decided to save you. I decided to save you. And from that time, nilipofika Form 3, that is when I changed my lifestyle in Kiliani High School. I became born again. What am I trying to say? Kweli inawezekana swala ako kwa mikono, kwa miguu ya nduma, ako kwa chita, amekamatwa, anaweza akaokolewa kweli? Look at that scenario. Is it possible for that animal to escape from the paws of that animal? Kwa macho yetu tunaweza tukasema haiwezekani, but to God it is possible. To God it's possible. Joshua, with the filthy rags, God stood with him to rebuke the accuser. And I dare say, let God rebuke accuser on your behalf. It's not your business. Si kazi yako kwenda kukemea mwenye anakustaki. Ipeane kwa Mungu na ataifanyia kazi. Bwana asifiwe. Now, the reason I've given you that experience of mine, you see also Joshua, as he was standing before God, he was wearing filthy clothes, meaning even as the devil was there to point, this man was on filthy clothes. He was on filthy clothes. So we can say Joshua was guilty as charged. He was guilty. He was guilty. But our God, full of mercy, stood for Joshua and rebuked Satan. I want you to go to the book of the same Isaiah 59, 1 and verse 2. What does it say? Isaiah 59. Surely the arm of the Lord is not too short to save, nor his ear too dull to hear. The second verse. But your iniquities have separated you from God. Your sins have hidden his face from you, so that he will not hear you. I'm saying sin is a separating factor. Sin is a separating factor. When sin stands between us and God, it separates us from God. Ephesians, I'll just quote this. 2 verse 4, where it says, because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, has made us alive. By the grace, you are saved. Kwa neema ya Bwana. There is no one of us who can stand before God. It is only by grace that we can stand. Bwana asifiwe. And the Bible tells us, because of his great love, we are made alive. We are not dead. Sin has not made us to be dead, to be a dead people. But because Jesus carried all these sins to the cross, we are alive. By his grace, we are saved. So, God as our heavenly Father rises and defends us. So, let God rebuke Satan on your behalf. Number 2, let God remove your filthy clothes. Let God remove your filthy clothes. Now, to deal with accusations brought to Joshua, God had to do something. God had to do something. And there are things that I want us to see. God does not tolerate sin. God does not tolerate sin. God does not excuse sin. God does not excuse sin. God does not rationalize sin. He does not. You see, there is this story you know about. It's about a wolf. When it was about to get to the strawberries, na ikashindwa kufikia hayo matunda, what did it say? Furthermore, hata haijaiva. That is what we call rationalization. You want to give a reason as to why something has not happened. Yeah? God does not rationalize sin. But our God deals with sin. Our God deals with sin. Something had to be done to Joshua. And in this case, the filthy garment, the filthy clothes that Joshua had, it had to be removed. And I want to say this. When we sin, there is a garment that is put on us, and not us who put it. It is the enemy the devil put us a garment. And I want you to note, when a garment has been put to you, you do not have power to remove it. Thank you, Joshua. And Vincent. Tulifurahia siku yako na ya Vincent. Na unajua hiyo siku inakuwa ni ya Muiki. Vile Muiki alikuwa amevalishwa, I'm very sure hiyo nguo Mrs. Joshua, hiyo nguo ungetaka hata kuitoa au ungeweza. Yes. Kuna nguo ambazo tunavaa inabidi mtu mwingine aje akufunge, na ukae sawa. Hauwezi ukaamua utaitoa na uitoe. Haitawezekana. Someone has to remove that. You can't by yourself. And when we fall victims of the devil, that's what happens. Tunavalishwa nguo, that filthy garment, that filthy clothes. We cannot take it off by ourselves. We can't. Lazima itolewe na mtu mwingine. And we see that. We see that the only way to deal with sin was to remove that garment. Jesus, God, does not tolerate sin. Hiyo tukaelewe. Hata kama amemtetea Joshua, he had to deal with the core issue, and that was the sin. The garment and to be removed. Hata wewe wakati nilikuwa nakupea ile nini, kama ni mtoto wako amekosea na umemwokoa kutoka kwa halaiki, you don't just leave it there. Ama inaachiwa hapo. Once you get home, deal with the vice. Deal with the issue. So, we see that God is now dealing with the issue of the garment. You can't have said you cannot justify sin. Pengine uanze kusema kwa familia yetu tunakuwa hivi. Tunakuwa hivi. Tunajipata. You can be the last person kukataa hiyo. Bwana asifiwe. You can break that cycle. Bwana asifiwe. Na dhambi zingine, there is no sin that is just going to pop on you just from nowhere and then you find yourself committing it. There are steps that will eventually lead you to committing that sin. So, God, and to deal with the sin, because if he never did that, the devil, Satan, wouldn't have the grounds to keep on coming back to God because of Joshua. Bwana asifiwe. I'm also reminded of these two kids. Walikuwa wameachwa nyumbani na wazazi. Watoto wakiwa pale, mtoto mmoja akaenda akachukua sukari kama mwingine amuoni, akaikula. Na wakati anapanguza midomo, yule mwingine anaingia. Na anamuuliza, umefanya nini? Mimi nimekuona vile umekuwa ukifanya. Mtoto akasema si chakula. Akaambiwa no. Si hata naiona kwa midomo. Si hata wakati ulikuwa unaichovya tu nilikuwa na kuangalia. You see, the kid could not deny it further. Akamwambia, enyewe nimekula. And then, this other kid decided to use it as a weapon over this other kid. Na kwa sababu kuna kazi walikuwa wameachiwa, akaamua itakuwa kinga sasa. Akamwambia, hii kazi yote lazima uifanye. Usipoifanya, haki nitakusema. The other kid had nothing else to do other than to take instruction from the other. Every other time, wakati wazazi ya wako, akitaka some favors from this other kid, he would tell him, do this for me. If you don't, I'll say you. The kid does not want to be reported. So he had to do what? To keep on doing whatever this other kid was doing. And I'm asking myself, could we also be in the same scenario? That the devil knows very well what we have done, what you have done, and he is using that as a tool to undermine you, to oppress you, to make sure that you are never free. Huyu mtoto ilifika wakati moja akaona nitaumia. Alienda kwa mzazi na akamwambia, Daddy, najua nini? Kuna siku nilikula sukari na ilikuwa nyingi. Naomba tu unisamehe. The father had nothing else other than to forgive the kid. Unabebana na mizigo ambayo inasuluhishwa tayari. Huyu mtoto angeenda kwa mzazi wake, hata wakati alikuwa ameikula tu muda ule, si angesamehewa tu. Lakini that is what the devil does. He takes advantage of us. Anytime we want to come out of the cocoon, he plays that card, and we are ever there. So I've said the garment, the filthy garment, can only be removed by God and not us. We can't remove it. And when we use our naked eyes, you may see someone smartly dressed, but before God is what? Filthy clothes. Joshua was dressed well, but before God, he was on filthy garments. All of us, before God, we lay bare. There is nothing that our God doesn't see. He sees everything. Those people that you think they are cool guys, they are people well respected, they are people we admire, there's a possibility that when God looks at them, is what? Is filthy clothes. In the book of Romans 5 and 8, Romans 5 and verse 8, Romans 5 verse 8. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Christ died for us. Romans, that is 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 21. God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. So, when God takes away our filthy garments, he clothes us with the righteousness of Jesus Christ, and the devil cannot see us. Maybe some of us could be saying, I'm a good person, I don't smoke, I don't steal, I don't speak lies. You remember that prayer of a tax collector and the Pharisees? Yeah? God is interested in who we are, not what we are not. You see, I may describe myself here so that you may know who I am. I may say, I am not Joshua, I am not Simiu, I am not all of them that are seated here. Nikisema au wote, when I say I am not, then you know who I am. In reference to others. This is what the tax collector was saying. God, I thank you because I'm not like the tax collector. What I'm saying is, you may say I am a good man. I don't smoke. I don't do what. God is not concerned on what you are not. He wants to know, who are you? Bwana asifiwe. That reminds me sometimes back, when we are a bit young in salvation, tukiwa kwa youth, tukiwa tunaongea na my fellow youth, mmoja akatuambia vile mzee mmoja alikuwa anasema, ile mboma ya pasta ile iko pale, huko ile fitina inakuwa huko, ni mimi naenda kuzima mambo yangu nikijikompea na pasta, I am okay. If kama hiyo ndio mnaita wokovu, I'm okay without having that. Kwa sababu kushinda zile zinatokea kule kwa familia yenye wanajua Mungu, ni mimi naenda kuzima mioto huko. Let me tell you, God is not interested in that. He is asking you, who are you? Bwana sifiwe. Not what you are not. Not what you are not. It is only God who can remove the filthy garment. Never try to remove it on your own. Bwana sifiwe. I'm very conscious of time. Time yangu imekaa kuisha. But a good preacher, I've been told, does not conclude his or a sermon. Itanipea nafasi nyingine, na kwa hivyo nataka niachie hapo. Next time when I get time, we are going to look at point number 3, God redirecting our ways. Na nikimalizia niseme, there's something that this morning as I was perusing through the Bible, it really astonished me, still on the same message. I was looking at the genealogy of Jesus, and I came across these two women, Rahab and Ruth. I was trying to look at the life of this one man called Judah. Judah, his life was very bitter. It was very bitter. I may not talk of that. I will talk about it next time. But what astonished me is that this woman by the name called Rahab was married to a man called Salmon. Salmon. We know Rahab, isn't it? A prostitute. He was married to Salmon. And Salmon was a descendant of Judah. This Salmon and Rahab, they gave birth to a gentleman by the name Boaz. Boaz. This Boaz got married to Ruth. Hapo nilikuwa nasema, Mungu, hakuna jambo lililo ngumu kwako Mungu. That a prostitute, when she listened to the voice of the spies, na akaamua kuwaokoa, mambo yake ilibadilika. She was married to Salmon. Ruth and Rahab was mother Mother-in-law. Mother-in-law to Ruth. And from Ruth, there came Obed. And from Obed, there came Jesse. And from Jesse, there came David. The rest is history. Bwana sifiwe. Ni lipi Mungu wetu hawezi akafanya? Our God can do all things.